he looked me in the eyes as we are going through, helping him with his testimony. He looked me in the eyes and he said, Jeffrey, if we don't win this hearing, I'm going to kill myself. And I believed him. And I've had other suicidal, remarks being made. Most of them are more ideations without a plan. But this one, you could just kind of see it in his eyes and knowing his story as well. I believed him.
Hello, hello. I am so happy today to introduce our special guest, Jeffrey Herman. Jeffrey, thank you for being here. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, Gilberto. Doing good today, doing good.
Great. I'm excited because I already talked to you before, and I'm pretty sure that you can share good experiences and insights to all the attorneys over there. So we always can improve our journey, as an attorneys, as a business owners, etc. So I would like that you can tell us what exactly you do right now in your company before I ask you a couple questions about your experience in your journey.
Absolutely. So I'm an attorney of 10 years. I attended one of the very first online law school programs. It was unique experience, to say the least. It was 4 years instead of 3 years, which was nice that I got to stretch that a little bit more. I think perhaps one of the most unique parts about that program I went to was that a lot of my peers that were attending the same program, this was a second career for them. A lot of people were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. There were some doctors, some successful business owners. And I really feel like I got two educations in one. I got my law education, was able to sit for the California bar, which I passed the first time. And then I also got kind of the school of hard knocks. I got to meet, talk to my peers about their struggles in business. Because one thing that law school doesn't really prepare you for is what happens after law school and running a business, if that is what you wish to do as an attorney and hop in as a solo practitioner. No preparation whatsoever for how to manage your own business. But I feel like with the conversations I had, the connections that I made, I was able to get some mentorship in areas of business that really did help set me up for my practices. So fast forward 10 years, I have two practices right now that are on kind of polar opposites of a spectrum. One practice, I help disabled individuals collect benefits for disability from Social Security. And my other practice, I help innovators, entrepreneurs protect their intellectual property, so patents, trademarks, copyrights. Can't ask for two opposite areas of law, and personally, I greatly enjoy both. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, it really got my attention when you were sharing that you study and did that online. I always think you need to have a lot of discipline to accomplish to do something like that. In my case, I prefer to go to the facility, so I can get all the attention that I need. If not, I can get distracted a lot. So what was your mindset to accomplish that? Because that's really, really hard, and how do you prepare? What was your motivation to accomplish that, to finish that when you were doing that online?
I'll be honest. It was not an easy road for me. I took the LSATs a couple times. First time I just kind of wung it without any preparation. Big mistake. Second time I prepared more, but among my law school options, there were a few, but a colleague of mine recommended that I look at Concord Law School in California, which was the online program, and it made sense for me. At the time, it was more cost effective. I was working as well, so it allowed me to work while going. But to be completely frank, when I first started the program, I was living in New York. I had just worked with my father for several years in his law practice, and kind of just it felt both my parents are lawyers, so it felt for me that the time was appropriate for me to go to law school. I guess you could say it was in my DNA. And so I enlisted in this program while I was living in New York. And I had a nice lifestyle in New York. I had a nice circle of friends. I was dating a nice girl. And I really didn't thrust myself. I didn't just throw myself in this program. I was a little too distracted, I would say. And I was gonna flunk out. I really was. So I wound up dropping out about halfway through my first year. Took a year off just to really, do some soul searching. I believe every attorney has to find their own passion for the law. It can't come from your parents. You have to find what moves you, what you're passionate about, what lights your fire. Eventually, I say, yeah, I want to get involved in the legal community for me, and I'm not going to be able to do it while living in New York. So, time for a complete change of scenery. I moved from New York to Arizona, where I am today, and re-enrolled in the program, and really just breezed through all 4 years, through the exams, right through graduation and getting my law degree. But for me, I really had to throw myself in, and making that big change in my life was what catapulted me to that.
Wow, impressed me a lot. Well, you mentioned something really important, and this is one of the things that we're doing this podcast. And you talk about mentorship. You said that you had the opportunity to be with other people that guide you, give you advices, sharing experiences, and tell me a little bit more about that. How important was for you that kind of relationship, with these people, and how that can help you to have the mindset to open your own firm.
Oh, it's it's huge. Having mentorship and multiple mentors, not just one, not just two, but it's super important in life and as a professional to seek mentors and to be mentors for others. It's perpetual. Having mentorship when you're new to something is critical. It helps you sidesteps those pitfalls that are out there. Having somebody who has been through the same experience that you're about to embark on can really help prepare you. It gives you confidence in being able to kind of take a leap of faith walking into a cave. You need to have some flashlights. So mentors can be your flashlights and can guide you through some that those early times. For me, I one of a good friend that I made in the law program that I went to. When he and I met, we were both first year law students, both taking this program that's based in California while living in Arizona. So there wasn't too many Arizonans that were in this program at the same time. We came across one another, which was kind of happenstance, but we quickly formed a nice friendship. We would meet every few weeks at a local library. We would study for exams, got to know one another. And at the time, he was working for a small but growing patent consulting group in Scottsdale, Arizona. And through their growth, they needed to hire some new patent consultants who could research new ideas to see if it would be patentable, and also to draft provisional patent applications and also utility patent applications. And so my friend asked if I wanted to learn a new trade and in patent research and to work for the group. And I eagerly said yes, sounds great. I was an English major in college. I told my friend I'm not an engineer by trade, but I know enough to be resourceful. And he said, "Don't worry, I got your back, Jeff. I'm a mechanical engineer, so don't worry. You have questions, I'm here to help." And so I started doing patent searches for this group, and it was fantastic. Would see all these new ideas come in and conduct keyword searches through a patent search engine to see what else was out there. I helped pay my way through law school, and then after I had done a couple hundred patent searches, my friend said, "Oh, would you like to learn how to write a patent?" I said, "Absolutely, I would like to learn how to write a patent. It's a great opportunity." And he would tell me that when he would work in law firms, it was virtually impossible to get people to sit down and show you things. When you get a job for a big law firm, there's an expectation that you already know how to do X, Y, Z, and the availability or an accessibility of the managing attorneys is very little. So, he kind of impressed upon me how if somebody's willing to teach you how to fish, you don't say no. He was willing to teach me how to write patents. I was able to utilize my English background along with just general resourcefulness and other consultants that were engineers as well. And I started writing patents in my second year of law school all the way up through my last year, and probably wrote about over 60 patents underneath a patent agent that was filing them, and very rewarding. But if not for that mentorship, none of that would have existed. And in fact, it carried me after law school and to start my own IP law practice, which I've maintained through this day.
Great. Wow. That's really, really important. I love the way that you said, we need to receive mentorship, but we need to be mentors as well. I love the way that you say it, Jeffrey, because I think like that phrase that I love, the master appears when the student is ready,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to be humble enough to learn from everyone. And we need to be, I will say, brave enough to help others and teach and mentor them. Because when we do that, we learn too,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me something, Jeffrey. In your journey as an attorney, if you have an event that it was really hard for you, that really change for good your journey as an attorney. If you can share an event that it was so hard for you, but switch your mentality and help you to improve, your career as an attorney. Is there an event that comes to your mind that you can share with us? How hard was that, and how you were able to overcome it?
Yeah. There's a couple of stories that come to mind, but I would say probably the most poignant story that I can think of is this happened about 4 years ago, approximately 2 years into my Social Security disability practice. And as part of this practice, I'm speaking to people that are going through severe medical conditions. They're not working, so they don't have any money coming into the household. Some of these clients become destitute, homeless. It's very sad because it takes a long time for disability claims to go through Social Security. And I have one client that stands out. Very sad story. It just in a brief summary, he met a woman in Michigan who had a son at the time, so he became kind of a stepfather figure, and he found a kind of a dream job for him in Arizona, working for a chocolate factory. And so with his girlfriend and her son, who was I think about 15 or so at the time, the three of them moved to Arizona, and he started working at this chocolate factory, and he loved it. And it was a managerial position for him, so it was a step up. He was making good money, and his girlfriend's son liked to camp, really liked to camp, go out with friends, really liked to camp. I guess he didn't have a real proper knife to take with him. So for Christmas, this fellow, my client, purchased for her son a knife that he can use for camping. A few months later, while he was at home, he was in his lazy boy. It was end of the day for him. Her son comes up from behind him and stabs him with that knife. Stabbed him critically, and he had to be airlifted to hospital. And it was, as you can imagine, exceptionally traumatizing for him to be vulnerable in your own home, to be attacked by somebody that's in your family. I can't imagine something even more traumatic than that, to not even feel safe in your own home. And that's how he would feel after this incident occurred, because of the the PR around it. He wound up getting fired from his job as well. And so, in addition to just the trauma, well, the physical trauma, but the psychological trauma from the attack, he became incredibly depressed. And Social Security denied him, which they often do. And the way it works typically is you go through some denials with Social Security, and you eventually can request a hearing with a judge, and you can present your case before a judge. So a lot of what I do throughout the week is I represent clients during these hearings. So in preparing him for his upcoming hearing, he looked me in the eyes as we're going through, helping him with his testimony. He looked me in the eyes and he said, Jeffrey, if we don't win this hearing, I'm going to kill myself. And I believed him, and I've had other suicidal, remarks being made. Most of them are more ideations without a plan. But this one, I mean, you could just kind of see it in his eyes and knowing his story as well. I believed him. But that put me in a very tough position because one of the most sacred parts about being an attorney is privilege. And what people say to you is confidential. So before an attorney can pick up that phone and call the authorities or whomever, you have to realize in doing so, you're breaking that attorney-client privilege, which is sacred. But there are times where the attorney has that ethical responsibility to make that phone call, and that's if the attorney really believes that their client is serious, and they might hurt somebody else or hurt themselves. I lost sleep over that. I really did. I mean, I had this hearing coming up, and I think this person's life is on the line. A lot of responsibility. It felt like it was on my shoulders to win his hearing, and I didn't know if I should report it or not. Technically, he said, if I lose the hearing, I will kill myself. So it wasn't imminent. It was contingent on an outcome. So it wasn't an immediate threat where if I call the police, what are they going to really do? And so what I wound up doing was, after several nights of restless sleep, I sent a message to the judge who was presiding over his case. And I disclosed to her what was shared with me during our pre-hearing meeting so that she was aware of what he said. And my thinking there was that this is kind of part of his case in a way. I mean, his case is premised on PTSD and depression, and reporting that to, I report other suicidal ideations that present in their records to the judge anyhow, but I felt compelled that I needed to share it with the judge. And my client's hearing came up, and at the start of the hearing, the judge asked to speak to me privately before, without him present, and she said, I got your message, and I want to thank you for sharing that with me. You did the right thing. I know it must have been hard, but I appreciate that you shared with me what was said to you. So thank you, Your Honor. We had the hearing. He testified well, and thankfully the judge did approve his claim. And it had as good of a happy ending as you possibly can ask for, born from such tragedy. But having about 280 clients now, and having done several hundred hearings, that probably was the saddest and toughest position I can remember being in as an attorney, when somebody looks you in the eye and says, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't win my case.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. I think that at some point you play as a psychologist as well, no? Most of the attorneys, for the clients, you are really fixing lives, and it's a lot of mental situations that you need to figuring out, to handle each case, no? Mm-hmm. Wow, that was really deep. Well, yeah. So, Jeffrey, so now you have your own company. You said that you have two practices in. I just want to ask you, what was the key for your success, to grow those companies, to manage those companies? If you want to tell everyone that are thinking or struggling, to stay all the time just with one assistant, or two assistants, and they don't want to grow because they think it's so complicated. I prefer to be small, and we were talking before, that still, if you're small, you need to solve all kind of problems. You need to do a lot of things. But you were sharing with me about delegation in a couple of things. Can you teach us? Can you share with us in your experience what was the key to your success?
Yeah, that was the key word, the delegation. I don't know what book I read it in, but the quote said, "Do what you do best, delegate the rest." And that's been my mantra. Making that first hire is the hardest hire to make, but it's the most important hire. And for me, my very first hire was hiring a bookkeeper. I hired a part-time bookkeeper. I recognized that a bunch of my time was spent sending invoices, sending receipts, doing the books. Attorneys got to keep really, really good books when it comes to their operating account, their trust account. And I realized I need to hire somebody. And it was a hard decision to make, trusting another person that I don't know from Adam, that I'm just seeking. Not easy to do. I interviewed several people until I found the right fit. A woman named Sarah, the name of her company was Oak and Acorn, which was for her and her mother. Her mother started the company, and she was the mother was the oak, and she was the acorn. Resonated with me because my father was very influential in my life, my career, and he was an attorney that I worked with as well. So I myself consider myself an oak and acorn too. And she's with me to this day. 9 years later, she manages my books for my practices. And it was the act of hiring and the act of letting go and not realizing that maybe people are going to make mistakes. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to do things the way you like to do them, but that's okay. I will not get in my own way. And to get past that, you do have to hire. I have friends colleagues of mine that are very talented attorneys, brilliant attorneys. But they're perfectionists, and they have this need to control everything in their private practice to the point where they don't hire anybody. They want to do everything themselves, and it just absolutely will kill your bottom line. You really can't grow without growing. You have to grow to grow. You have to hire.
That is an amazing point. Thank you for sharing that. I think that, yes, I found some attorneys that they said, I will never find, Gilberto, someone that can do the work that I do, And I said, you are right. You won't find someone that can do all the work that you do. You build this company, you invest your time, your money, you take a lot of risk and all those type of things. But you can find some people that can help you to do some specific task. Yep. And eventually they will do it better than you.
Absolutely.
Are you agree?
I agree. And not only that, they can train other people. And that's another part of it too, is having people on your team that can train other people so that the act of training doesn't entirely fall on the attorney.
That's good.
Training is training is draining. It really just is. There's a person that, in my opinion, can only train so many people in their career before it really can wear you out. It's very hard for me right now in my practice. So, for example, my disability practice, I have 8 paralegals that work for me. And it does seem as though there's a cycle where every 2 or 3 years, some of my younger paralegals are moving on to bigger and brighter things. And it's always a tough process for me to have, pour in all sorts of time and training into a person, and then every 2 or 3 years have to train and replace. The person that's currently been with me the longest, which is about 3.5 years, she's wonderful, very talented, very, very intelligent, but she's been able to train new paralegals that are coming through the door. And I find that really does protect my personal burnout, I would say, by having people that can train others.
That's great. That's great. Well, now I want to ask you a really, really important question is, how do you balance, your life, your personal life with your life at work. How do you balance that so it can be in harmony, so you can have really good time with your family as well, and a really good time with yourself as well. What
Yeah.
would you think that is the key point, and what advice would you like to share with everyone, about balancing your life?
I think that's something that we all struggle with in our lives, is finding that right balance, and whatever works for, how can you sustain your lifestyle and strike that balance. Attorneys, the legal profession carries a lot of stress, and it's important to de-stress. You have to have an activity that you enjoy that can take that stress out in a healthy manner. For me, I like racquetball. Racquetball for me it's like walking into a coliseum in ancient Rome. As soon as that door closes and there's that resounding echo, you're trapped in a room with a competitor, and you can grunt, you can scream, you can curse, you can smash that ball. You do all that. You let out all that energy. You let out all that negativity out in a positive way. You got to have that. Um, you have to put time into things that matter to you. Family matters to me, so I know I have to dedicate certain times throughout the week for my family. Um, I believe it's important to take a vacation or a staycation at least once per quarter to reset my mind, reset my soul. Um, and I think I was fortunate in the sense that in that same connection I made in law school, that taught me how to work in the patent industry. It was a kind of a volume based legal business, which is kind of a rarity in a way, to have that kind of a volume based mentality. But that was their business model, and that kind of taught me from day one about it's not about any individual client. It's about the overall process. Of course, it's about every single client when you're representing them, but from a business perspective, you look at the grand scheme of things. And if you have a client that is just basically a nightmare to deal with, a hassle, takes a lot more time, you just don't let that get to you. You just say, okay, it's part of an overall process. Next, next, next. Try to avoid those clients, and over the years, your radar becomes strengthened to the point where you can kind of avoid those clients that are going to be soul suckers. But aside from that, I'd say you got to have activity that you enjoy to help you de-stress. You got to spend time with your family consciously. You got to take trips as needed to reset your mind and soul. And you just got to realize, it's all part of a overall practice. You can't get too caught up with a particular client.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Just do it intentionally, like you said. Well, Jeffrey, what is going to be an advice that you can share with someone that is thinking to open their own firm, their own business? What would be an advice that you can give to the audience, when
Yeah.
they're thinking to run their own business?
It's a very exciting and challenging and rewarding journey to take. Um, I can share with you what I think, what helped me launch my practices and build them up. One of the first things I did when I launched a practice was I filed a trademark. I came up with a trademark that I thought would represent this business. And I believe a business needs an identity, and having a trademark kind of gives a face to that identity and something that you remind yourself that this is what you want to be known for. This is your identifier, and it kind of let it kind of grow from there. For me, my first trademark I filed was "With You Till the Finish Line," and
I saw it in your website. I saw that that's the tagline in your website.
the reason I chose that one was first I wanted to go through the trademark process just to kind of see what it's like to get a trademark registration, but also mainly I found that other attorneys, the complaints that I would receive in my first year of practice was that the attorney that they would hire may not be the attorney that's there with them at the end of the case, or attorney's hot to trot in the beginning. They really want to get your business. They want to get that retainer in, but then they fizzle out after they deliver the first wave of work. Or it could be really tough to get a hold of them on the phone or get a response by email once that first wave of work is done. And I wanted people to know that I'm the opposite of that. I will be with you to the finish line, from start to finish, whatever your goal and objective is. And we have a meeting of the minds, and I agree to be your attorney. You agree to be my client. I will be there with you through thick and thin to the very end, whatever that is.
Yeah. Beautiful. Jeffrey, thank you for being with us. Wow, we get really good insights here, starting with, we can do hard things like going and study online. That was impressed me a lot when we were talking about it. And I love your phrase, do what you do best and delegate the rest. I love it. I'm going to put it in my quotes. I like that one too. And understanding, that each of us, so in our careers, in our journeys, we go through really hard things, and life is about feelings, like this person was struggling and sharing with you his feelings, and in some way, attorneys are people, judges are people too as well. They understand that life is hard, and they will see if the law applies to help others, Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I love from honest and good attorneys, I really appreciate that you spend this time with us, and I'm pretty sure that people will learn and feel empathy with these insights that you share with us. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Jeffrey.
My pleasure. And just one more tip I give to people.
Yes, please. Good.
Always be available for opportunities that come along. Just like I'm sitting here right now having this conversation with you on your podcast. If you want to be successful in your business, whether law or anything, you really have to put yourself out there so that you can be contacted, and then walk through those doors when those doors come along. You never know what it could lead to. And so I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. And hopefully, it helps some future attorneys out there. I know when I first started, having any kind of wisdom from other attorneys was gigantic. Don't be afraid to buy lawyers' lunches. As a new attorney, you realize you're going to go through ups and downs, but having camaraderie, mentorship, treating people to lunches, sending some gift baskets around the holidays, really build those relationships within your community. That's gonna open you up for opportunities, and when they come along, you got to jump right through. You can't hesitate. Seize that moment. And good luck to everybody.
That's a wise advice. Thank you, Jeffrey. So we will be in touch, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching and listening. If you're an attorney with your own law firm, we know you have valuable experiences to share. Reach out to us. We would love to interview you and bring your story to life on our show to inspire other attorneys in their journey.